Yeah, yeah, yeah. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Two, yeah.
Good morning. The Prime Minister is here, so can we all please stand for his arrival?
Two, yeah. Ah.
Can we still remain standing as we ask the Lady of Song, Ophelia Marie, to bless us with the national anthem?
Isle of beauty, isle of splendor, isle to all so sweet and fair, all must surely gaze and wonder at thy gifts so rich and rare. Rivers, valleys, hills, and mountains, all these gifts we do extol. Healthy land, so like our fountains, giving cheer that warms the soul.
Thank you. We will remain standing as we ask Father Mama to lead us in prayer. Thank you.
First of all, I pray for your indulgence, your tolerance, because we are going to start our prayer by the sign of cross. In case if you are not Catholic, do not be offended. We begin our prayer in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the communion of the Holy Spirit be with you all. My brothers and sisters, as we have gathered here in Jungle Bay, for a very important issue, a very important meeting in our life, let us give thanks to God, who is rich in mercy, who has favored us in many wonderful ways, and whose treasures of goodness is without limit. Let us pray. All-powerful and merciful Father, we present our nation, Dominica, before you as we recognize you as the God of justice, love, and peace. Without you, we can do nothing. Continue to rule over our nation, as power and might are in your hands, and no one can withstand you. We commend ourselves before your majesty, Lord. We, the patriotic citizens of this nation, Dominica, both the diaspora and the home base, are here to praise you as well. Thank you for all you have done for us. Coming together here in Jungle Bay is by your grace, as we cannot do without you, Father. We appeal to your compassionate, merciful, and powerful presence to be with us here as we proceed for this wonderful and loving get-together with our brothers and sisters living outside our nation, Dominica, who has come back from different places to join us to discuss issues and rub minds together in the things that will foster development, progress, and peaceful coexistence in our nation, Dominica. God, our Father, may everything we will do here begin with your inspiration and continue with your help, so that all our prayers and work may begin in you and by you be happily ended. Lord, may you bless, guide, and uphold all those in authority, our leaders, starting from our president, our prime minister here present before you, our various ministers, our parliamentary representatives in different constituencies, our council in various communities, and all those holding one post or the other, working for you, for the good of the people here in our nation, Dominica. Bless all of them, uphold them in your love and your mercy. Because of how important this Diaspora Forum, our meeting, is for us, let us call upon the Holy Spirit, the Lord, the giver of life and wisdom, to be with us here. We stand before you, O Holy Spirit, conscious of our sinfulness, but aware that we gathered in your name. Come to us, remain with us, enlighten our heart, give us light and strength to know your will, to make it our own, and to live by it in our life. Guide us by your wisdom, support us by your power, for you are God, sharing the glory of Father and the Son. You desire justice for all. Enable us to uphold the right of others. Do not allow us to be misled by ignorance or corrupted by fear of favor. Unite us to yourself in the bond of love and keep us faithful to all that is true. As we gathered here in your name, may we temper justice with love, so that all our discussion and reflection may be pleasing to you and earn the reward promised to God, good and faithful servant. We make this prayer of you, who live and reign with God and the Father, one God, forever and ever. Amen. Let us now give a short foundation to our prayers, praise and petition by our Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power, and glory are yours now and forever. Amen.
Thank you, Father Mama. You may be seated. The Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Roosevelt Skerrit, the Honorable Reginald Austri, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Agriculture and Food and Fisheries, the Honorable Dennis Charles, Parliamentary Representative for this constituency, the Honorable Members of Cabinet, the Honorable Members of Parliament, Your Excellency Steve Farrell, Secretary for Cabinet, Permanent Secretaries, Mr. Sam Raphael, Proprietor for the Jungle Bay Resort and Spa, Father Mama, visiting diasporans, the reason why we are here today, to have you witness for yourself the remarkable recovery and improvement to the Nature Island landscape under the leadership of this Dominica Labour Party, directed by Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit. So we thank you for being here today, all the distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. To do the welcome here this morning, I will ask Honorable Dennis Charles to welcome you to this facility and the constituency. Thank you.
Honorable Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit, Honorable Reginald Austri, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Agriculture, Food and Fisheries, Honorable Members of Cabinet, Your Excellency Steve Farrell, Secretary to the Cabinet, Permanent Secretaries, Ms. Afinia Benjamin, Coordinator of Diaspora Affairs, Mr. Sam Raphael, Proprietor, Jungle Bay Resorts and Spa, Father Mama, visiting Dominicans, Dominice, bonjour. Welcome to the beautiful, scenic, and most popular destination in Dominica today, the Soufriere constituency. And welcome to the first 5-star resort opened in Dominica, Jungle Bay. It is indeed with great joy I greet you today to experience the transformation that has taken place in my constituency over the last 15 years. The Soufriere constituency is transforming before our eyes into a tourism mecca. We shall commence the construction of 2 jetties in 2020, reintroduce yachting, and create a relaxing and rejuvenating experience for visitors from Point Michel to Scott's Head. Just go to resdm.com to visit our coastal development plan. As a daughter of Point Michel and a 1979 baby, I recall life in my village, our poor infrastructure, social stigmatization, and our dreams to reach for the stars. My people faithfully voted the Freedom Party for 20 years, but only reaped significant benefits under this Labour Party government. I hope that your drive to Jungle Bay this morning was pleasant despite the rain. I still marvel at the progress we have made since Hurricane Maria. It is a testament to our resilience as a people and undeniably the outstanding leadership of our Prime Minister, Honorable Dr. Roosevelt Skerrit. Give our PM his flowers now. One thing about us in the Soufriere constituency, when we have something good, nuka chebe for. We shall not gamble with our future. We are focused on building the new Sufre, and I'm encouraging my people to make investments. The future of our country is so critical. As I have said, this is not Showtime, HBO, or Lifetime, where if you don't like the movie, you can just flip the channel. The decision we will make at the next general elections, while we have to live with it for 5 years, also determines the next 40 years of development of our country. Because time lost, opportunities lost, investments lost cannot be regained. It's very easy to say I want to build 5,000 homes. It's another thing to have the funds to get it done. We have started the work because we have solid partners and global friends. Relationship is everything. It was David's relationship with God that made him a great king. Likewise, a man can father a child, but it is the relationship with that child that makes him a good father. Our leader has built an excellent reputation in the international community since his stewardship of our nation. Our quality of life is refining because of his strategic alliances and his ingenious re-engineering of a financial product, the CBI, Citizen by Investment. We still have families who require new homes in various constituencies, and some who still require assistance to undergo major home repairs. Just in Sufre, I have built over 34 homes and still have 150 to go. Some have complained that we were helping returnees who build big homes. But I said to them, if you worked for 30 years in London, saved your money to build your dream home in Dominica, built your home, all you receive is your pension to buy food and meals, and in one night, your home was destroyed, how would you want to be treated? Should I say to you, at 65, go back to work for another 30 years? The Labour Party government recognizes the struggles we have endured as a people. Dominica was looked upon as one of the least developed islands in the region. Today, thanks to the sturdy, visionary leadership, we are rapidly increasing our ranking in the development index in our region. It took Dominica 40 years after independence in 1979 to open the first 5-star resort and witness the construction of 3 major international brands, Marriott, Hilton, and Kempinski. It took Roosevelt Skerrit-led Labour administration under 5 years to make that dream a reality because of the re-engineered CBI program real estate option. It took Dominica 28 years after independence to have an international cricket stadium. It took Roosevelt Skerrit-led administration 3 years to make that a reality. It took Dominica 30 years after independence to have night landing. It took the Roosevelt Skerrit-led Labour administration 6 years to make that a reality. So, ladies and gentlemen, our track record is one of making things happen for you. So when we say your cruise port is coming, your international airport is coming, by the grace of God, 5 more years and your next Labour Party government will make it happen. For we serve our country wholeheartedly. We may not be the United States of America, an economy over 500 years, or India or Great Britain, which have been established for thousands of years. We are only 40 years old. Yet, we are ending our 40th year with great infrastructure, universal access to education, resilient housing for the vulnerable, a state-of-the-art hospital, and new 5-star resorts opened and under construction. Isn't that progress, my people? And that is what makes Dominica safer with labor. A leader and a team who shall make things happen because our ultimate service is to God. So I want us to embrace the blessings the Lord has bestowed on us. We have made significant milestones, even based on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We have more to go. So how can it ever be wrong by voting to let progress continue in our nation? So feel at home in Soufriere. Have a bath in Bubble Beach or Tusab in Scottshead. Go scuba diving or just drive to Gallia for the best fresh air or organic produce. Have lunch at Cocoye in Soufriere, Conrad's or Cheswen in Scottshead. On your way back, hang out at the catch or fish spot in Point Michel, or just chill in Hollywood. This is our Dominica. Let's enjoy it. Let's bless it. Let's work together to ensure that we make her the #1 destination in our region. This is our chance, our golden opportunity. So when we look 10 years ahead, we can all be proud how we have transformed this country and made life better for our children. I am proud to be Dominican. Brighter, brighter days ahead. Merci tout le monde. Merci Baudier. I look forward to a fruitful discussion this morning. One love.
Thank you, Honorable Denise Charles, for your kind words and for highlighting some of the improvements and the tremendous work that this Dominica Labour Party is doing. Driving up here this morning, it was very rainy, and I had some concerns that probably we would not get as much of an attendance today. But this is proof of the resilience of our people, and we are here in large numbers. And our theme for today, or for the independence season, is saluting resilience and rejuvenation 2 years on. And you are exactly what it is that we are doing, rejuvenating Dominica, and we are a resilient people. In doing so, I will ask Mr. Samuel Raphael to come and just give you a presentation. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Jungle Bay. I want to just recognize the dignitaries, starting with our Honorable Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, Deputy Ostry, and the other members of the Parliament and the Cabinet. We'd like to represent some of the government officials that are here. I know the CAPSEC and some of the permanent secretaries are here also. We have our coordinator of Diaspora Affairs, and this is a diaspora function, so we want to especially recognize her. Certainly Father Mama that gave the wonderful prayer, and most importantly, you, the fine Dominicans that have braved the inclement weather to be here with us today. I'd also like to recognize the media, because we are not alone in this room, that what we say is being carried abroad, you know, throughout the island and certainly internationally. So we just want to say salutations to all Dominicans that are out there. Just by a word of housekeeping, the first thing you should do when you come to a building or property is find out where the bathroom is, right? It's a practical thing. So if the bathrooms are behind me, if you want to get there, just walk through the aisle along by the pool and you can go to the bathroom, all right? So that's just a little note of housekeeping. But this is a very special time for Dominicans in between our fetting at Creole Festival and the independence, I think our 41st year of independence. It is a crucial time for us when we reflect. And not too many years ago, I was sitting exactly where you're sitting, not at Jungle Bay, but certainly just as you are. I was sitting and pondering. I was thinking about a return to Dominica. So I'd like to speak to you from that perspective because I was where you are. And you have a lot of questions, I know. Keeping it real. You have a lot of questions, and someone spoke to me this week. She said, I'm a little concerned. I don't know why. I mean, it's a big decision. Huh? You can't just up and leave your spouse, your children, your mortgage, all the other ties that you have and things that you're accustomed to, and jump in without knowing exactly what's in place and how the environment is, how ready it is for you to facilitate what it is that you want to do. And that's sort of what I want to speak to you about, because I had to make that decision, or I chose to make that decision. I left here when I didn't leave. My parents took me when I was about 6 years old. You don't leave when you're 6, right? And they brought me away, like so many of our people, seeking what they thought were opportunities for education, etc., for their children. And did well academically, got into business abroad, did well, at that level also. So why come back to Dominica if you're doing well elsewhere? So that's the question because many of you are doing very well. Dominicans are out there doing well. Should I leave the bird in the hand for the one back in the bush in Dominica? That's the question that you're probably asking yourself. And what is in place to help to support me when I come to Dominica? I may not be completely familiar with the way things are now. It may not be as I thought I left it. What are the supporting mechanisms that are there in place for me? So first, I made the decision in the mid-90s to come back to Dominica. And you come for a purpose. And those of us that are out there, we have two things in mind. One, we're not getting any younger, so we have to keep putting things aside for ourselves. Let's keep it real, right? You're not Santa Claus. You're not coming here because you're so rich and you have to give things away. You have to keep earning a livelihood and creating wealth for yourself in your old age. But you're also interested in coming back because you want to contribute to the development of your country. That's right? So you have a twofold commitment. It's very good to attract foreign investors to your country. They want to come and they want to do well for themselves, and in so doing, they benefit the country through jobs and opportunities. But it's more important to attract nationals living abroad because you have an additional connection. So if things don't go perfectly, unlike the foreign investors, you will not likely leave. You will stay here and you will fight it out. And that's exactly the type of commitment, and many Dominicans living abroad have shown that commitment through the work that you have been doing to promote Dominica from abroad. Now, I interface with Dominicans every day that tell me that, or non-Dominicans that tell me they met some Dominicans away and they told them they have to come to Jungle Bay. You guys are doing a marketing for me, for Jungle Bay. I want to thank you. Keep doing that. That's big. And then you're also promoting the positive image of Dominica, and this is critical. So you're doing that because this day and age, in the era especially of social media, you can get some not too good, reports, and people may be out there wondering, are some of these things true? Is it really, is nothing happening in this island? What's going on? And so you're out there to counter that and to say, no, not only that, but you must come back and you must go visit Dominica. I'm amazed at the number of people that have entered Jungle Bay in the past 3 months and have told me, honestly, we were wondering when we were planning if the island was ready after Maria, because they thought we would still be, hanging from the telephone poles, They thought things weren't, and when they come here, they want to, was it really as bad as the pictures? Because they think we photoshopped those, all the destruction. Because so much transformation has happened since not just Maria, but we had Erica, and I recall we even had a major, disaster around Christmas time in 2013. So we've been on a rebound from a lot of disasters, and there's a lot of momentum on the island, and this means that there's a lot of opportunity for you to come in. And there's a lot of work. I'm not just speaking from the political level, but in terms of the infrastructure of the government to provide an enabling environment to support you and your investment. So when you came through the hall, you saw Invest Dominica Authority. They were there waiting, and that's an important government agency. And they are there to work with you to facilitate your investment in Dominica. You saw Dominica Social Security Authority. That's an important agency that you have to work with in coming to Dominica. You saw Dexia. They were there. If you're a little younger, you saw the Dominica Youth Business Trust. And there are many agencies and instrumentalities that are out there. Some of them aren't here with us. Some of our banks, the Aid Bank, the National Bank, you have a lot of lending institutions that are ready and willing to welcome you to facilitate the financing of your investment and return to Dominica. There are also other areas of infrastructure that provide support, but there's a one-stop shop so that you don't have to go all over the place. And that agency, they're not standing here at the podium, but they're Invest Dominica Authority. And I would like to encourage any of you that are considering returning to Dominica to check the IDA booth up front. Now, I did that many years ago when they were under the umbrella of the National Development Corporation. They've gone on and they've now established their own agency strictly focusing on facilitating investments to Dominica. I've used them from the time I got to Dominica, and I use them up to today. As someone that's doing business, it's an ongoing one-stop shop relationship. So if they are unable to assist you in what it is that you need, they know somebody that can, right? As Asa Banton will tell you, you have to know somebody that knows somebody. They know who it is that you can go to get the support and assistance. And when you decide to come to Dominica, you're not alone. There is a lot of supporting mechanisms. There's certainly a government that is quite keen and eager to assist and support. I know after Tropical Storm Erica did some damage to Jungle Bay on the East Coast, we decided, I was actually heading to Barbuda. We had already had approvals for our Mystic Bay development, which is a sister to the original Jungle Bay, when Tropical Storm Erica damaged the Jungle Bay, and I had to make a decision. Fortunately, I ran into my now friend. We always had a working relationship, though, and I just want to stress that, you don't come to an island for politics. Let's be honest, okay? You come to an island and you work with the government that the people elect, okay? So you may or may not be in favor of that government at the time, but you still have to have a working relationship with that government. So we must always, as people thinking of business, this has to be our focus. Okay, so we weren't so chummy all the time, but my good friend saw me on my way out, and I don't know what PM, you haven't told me what led you to say, but Sam, you said, I was looking for you. And at the end of the time, he said, I really want you. He assisted me with getting to my guests. I hadn't even been able to get to the old Jungle Bay. I had to get a helicopter service and so on. But he said, I don't want you to go. I want you to rebuild Jungle Bay. We need Jungle Bay. And that stuck to me. So it's that personal outreach to the Dominican diasporans or persons that are abroad, or non-Dominicans, that he knows he has to manage the affairs of Dominica, and the ministers know that. So they're reaching out and they want to facilitate and support you. Now, maybe he hasn't even thought of it, but it was divine providence. Because, if I had gone and had built that property in Barbuda and Maria hit, there would have been, I don't drink, but I would probably be drinking right now. So, he didn't have that in mind, and it's divine providence how it worked out. And here we are today. We're grateful to have rebuilt Jungle Bay. We're trying to keep the natural facade, but it's structurally more resilient, and it's a lesson learned moving forward. And I'm just so delighted to be able to be here and to host you. We're proud that the government is now able to find venues. Roseau's good, but take you outside of Roseau. Take you south to Soufriere. Next year, maybe you will go to the north. I mean, with all these hotels, you know, you got a lot of choices, you know. And we plan to do some work again once we get this Jungle Bay finished to work on redeveloping the site of the old Jungle Bay. My friend Kent is here. He's running for office in that area and he's looking at me. So I put that on record again, Kent, you know. And all over the country, there are opportunities, facilitation. Let me just be, you know, an example. We needed to get, you see the road work that you're having coming here. So all my friends in Soufriere say, boy, thank you, Sam. Now I see they fixing the road, you know. For Jungle Bay, well, it's not just for Jungle Bay. Soufriere people benefiting. We're getting our jetties and docks built. We now have a water system, $6-point-something million water system that's in progress now, later this year, that's going to bring water to Jungle Bay, and for the first time we have commercial water. This is the type of support and infrastructure that I found that the government of Dominica is doing to support the facilitation of business. So if they are willing to do that to facilitate my business, and I haven't always been a friend, could you imagine the support that you will get to facilitate what it is that you're doing? So I just want to tell you Dominicans out there that it's not perfect. Nothing is perfect. If it was perfect, you didn't need to come back here. Okay? We need you. The island need you. I need you to build the economy so my business can do better. Okay? And we need each other. And we do have a supporting infrastructure which is ours. Let us come together and let's build that. And I can vouch for the government and the different, you know, instrumentalities of the government, IDA and Discover Dominica, whether it's the Port Authority or whatever, that we have a supporting infrastructure to support your plans, and you just come out, you've gone out there, you've done the preparation, and you're ready to come back and build your country. So I'm looking forward to have you join me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Raphael. He's a true success story of a diasporan returning to Dominica and doing well. So he's one of the persons you listen to, and you can get good encouragement from him to probably try to do something for yourself. So he is our success story, and we are here to see what has happened during the time after Erica and also after Maria. We have a vehicle that is obstructing the driveways. PW 704, can you please move your vehicle or relocate it to another location? PW 704. In Dominica, we have a lot of young people who are involved in our culture, and it ensures that our culture will live on. So for our entertainment here, we will call the St. Luke's School Folk Dancers to come and do a performance for us. Can we give them a round of applause as they come forward?
Louis Vuitton, Louis Vuitton, Louis Vuitton. 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 Minola, no vini da se belle, no vini chate belle. Why Minola, why Minola, da se belle ba moi, chate belle ba moi. Why Minola, why Minola, no vini da se belle, no vini chate belle. Why Minola, why Minola, da se belle ba moi, chate belle ba moi. Why Minola, why Minola, no vini da se belle, no vini chate belle. Why Minola, why Minola, da se belle ba moi, chate belle ba moi. Why Minola, why Minola, no vini da se belle, no vini chate belle. Why Minola, why Minola, da se belle ba moi, chate belle ba moi. Why Minola, why Minola, no vini da se belle, no vini chate belle. Why Minola, why Minola, no vini da se belle, no vini chate belle. Why Minola, why Minola, da se belle ba moi, chate belle ba moi. Why Minola, why Minola, no vini da se belle, no vini chate belle. Why Minola, why Minola, no vini da se belle, no vini chate belle. Why Minola, why Minola, da se belle ba moi, chate belle ba moi. Why Minola, why Minola. À Saint-Luc, school, c'est là quand t'es couché. C'est là quand t'es couché, c'est là quand t'es couché. Da se belle ba moi, ou les belle ba moi. Dijo da se belle, dijo ou les belle. Da se belle ba moi, ou les belle ba moi. Dijo da se belle, dijo ou les belle. Da se belle ba moi, ou les belle ba moi. Dijo da se belle, dijo ou les belle. Da se belle ba moi, ou les belle ba moi. Dijo ou les belle. Dijo da se belle, dijo ou les belle. Da se belle ba moi, ou les belle ba moi. Dijo da se belle, dijo ou les belle. Nukale, 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 oh, nukale, school, da se belle, nukale, 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 oh, da se belle, nukale.
Let's give them another round of applause. They performed very well. Thank you to the St. Luke School folk dancers. Without any further ado, I would like to call the Honorable Reginald Ostry, the Minister for Agriculture, Food and Fisheries, to do his remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Let me recognize Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of Dominica, my other cabinet colleagues, any other member of parliament here, Your Excellency Steve Farrell, Secretary of the Cabinet, Permanent Secretaries, Ms. Benjamin, Mr. Raphael, Proprietor, Father Mama, visiting Dominicans, ladies and gentlemen. By now you know that I'm a very shy person. And I've only been given 5 minutes to speak with you. So bear with me if I stutter a bit because I don't normally read, but I want to be at my best behavior today. So I'm going to try to read through this. And I remember a joke, Prime Minister always gives it, the first time I came to Roseau. I don't know how he knew that. I'm twice times his age, so I don't know how he remembered the first time I came to Roseau. But I'm not going to give you that joke now. We'll deal with that a little later in the interactive sessions. But for those of you who were here during the passage of Hurricane Maria, and those of you who have returned since Maria, and for those of you who are probably returning for the first time since Maria, and you witnessed the almost total devastation of Dominica, whether by first-hand information, by TV, by social media, or by regional and international observers, I'm sure it will have brought tears to your eyes. And some of you probably didn't believe that Dominica would have recovered. In fact, I know many people who left Dominica the morning after the hurricane, by whatever means they could, because they thought that this country would never get back to where it was. We lost 250% of our GDP, and I know we have some very intelligent people in here, so maybe you can do the maths on that. 90% of the agriculture sector was destroyed. 80% of our tourism plans and infrastructure was destroyed. 90% of our housing stock. In fact, at the time it was estimated that we had about 30,000 homes in Dominica. 23,000 were damaged by the hurricane. 5,000 were totally destroyed. So it means that only about 23 and 5, only about between 3 and 5,000 you could consider to have remained intact. 90% of our schools, health centers, public buildings, these were destroyed. But you're here today, and in spite of your political preference, I'm sure you will admit that this country has come a very long way. In fact, some people describe it as nothing short but a miracle that in 2 short years we have achieved so much. Not only in terms of the recovery, but also in terms of new developments and new initiatives both by the public and private sector. Many of our businesses have now been reopened, but there are also the establishment of many new businesses, Do It Center and Fresh Market. We have a galvanized manufacturing plant, and many other new businesses all across the country have been opened brand new since the hurricane. The construction and rehabilitation of roads and bridges, health centers. We have our health facilities. And those of you who will have an opportunity will take a look by the PMH and you will see the opening of the first phase of the new China-Dominica Friendship Hospital. Something that many of you would never imagine that you would see in your lifetime. Brand new, spanking, modern, state-of-the-art hospital. Tourism, hotels. And I'm not going to talk about the hotels, somebody else will deal with that, but right here where we're standing is one of the hotels that was opened after the hurricane. And the important thing about it is many of those new hotels are branded hotels that you're familiar with from whatever part of the world you come from. The Hiltons, the Marriotts, Kempinski's. This is what this government, in a very difficult period, is offering to the people of Dominica. Our agriculture is rebounding. You went to the market, those of you who are here for market, there was a difference. And you saw the large variety, the color, the enthusiasm, the spirit of the Dominican people have been revived since the hurricane. But I would like to thank you, the diaspora, to thank you for the contribution that you've made, both in the relief and the development stages. Not only after Maria, but for your entire life overseas, you have been a very positive influence on the social and economic development of our country. We recognize your efforts, and as a result, this government has agreed that you will always have a place in the development of our country. And we will seek to defend your right to participate in the development of your country, no matter what it costs us, no matter what it takes. And I speak of your right to determine what government you want to lead your country. I speak of your rights to vote at the next general elections. And you who have been following the debate and the discussions will agree that there have been some serious efforts made at preventing you from exercising that right. We have had to endure many, many challenges to protect that right. We have had the almost burning of Roseau on the 7th of December, of February, in protecting that right to vote. We have had to endure the humiliation in Parliament. We have had to shut down the Parliament because there was threat of stoning of the Parliament if we had gone ahead and passed the legislation that would continue to guarantee you your right to vote in our next elections. And so this government, even then, will continue to protect and to defend that right. Because some of you make greater contributions to the development of this country than many of us who are here in Dominica. I would like to say to you that in determining who runs your country and who runs your government, there are some basic, fundamental things that you have to look out for. The leadership of your country is going to be very critical. Because no matter how much resources you get, how much money, and I must say that all the resources you had been pledged, we have not received it yet. And what we have been doing is using our own resources to do the development that you see across here. But leadership is going to be very critical in that period as to who leads your country. Your track record, what have you done before? What do you intend to do? Is also going to be a major factor in determining who runs your country. Your programs, your policies, your foreign policy, your foreign relations. But importantly, the love for country, the love for people, and that is what we call patriotism, your honesty and your integrity. All of these subjects, we can spend the whole day discussing them and debating them, but we don't have the time for that. But in your own quiet moment, you can reflect on those issues and decide which way you want to go or which way you want to influence your family and your relatives to go. But I want to speak on the issue of leadership and track record, and I'll try to combine them both in the interest of time. When this government got into power in 2000, this is what we met. We met an overdraft facility at the National Bank of $87 million. The authorized limit is $50 million. So it means that we were $37 million on credit card. That's what it is like. We live it on credit. High interest rates, $37 million. We met $53 million worth of unpaid checks at the Treasury. $53 million. We met $9 million worth of unprocessed LPOs. That is credit that was taken from the private sector, from small businesses, and the country was not able to pay for those. We met $14 million of unpaid gratuities and pensions for retired public officers. Officers who had given 30, 40, 50 years of service to this country, and they retired, and they could not get their retirement benefit. We met $42.8 million owed to regional and international institutions. We met $140 million at 14% interest rate. 14%. And the reason why we went to Trinidad for that money, and the reason why we went to Trinidad for that money is because no recognized international institution would not borrow us any more money because they knew we would not be able to afford it. The country could not afford it at the time. To the DBMC, the farming, we claim that we're a farming community. But $35 million was left owed to the DBMC. Our farmers had to pay for $35 million. And that was at a time when those farmers were promised $1 a pound of banana. We were never able to pay more than 52 cents a pound. Yet still, we left a debt of $35 million to the DBMC. If 52 cents is half of a dollar, and you double that, if we had gone ahead and paid the dollar, we would have met a debt of over $70 million owed to the DBMC. The OECD Supreme Court, $13.6 million. The salaries in December of 1999 was paid from St. Lucia's credit at the ECCB. Ladies and gentlemen, the picture I'm painting for you here is that this country was totally broke and bankrupt when we got into government in 2000. So I hear people talking about it's 19 years, it's government, how many years? But that is what we met. And we had to immediately enter into a structural adjustment program with the IMF to attempt to fix that situation. But more importantly, we lost 2 prime ministers trying to fix the situation. 2 prime ministers. And here comes this little champion from Viecas. This little champion from Viecas. At 31, many of you here didn't believe that we would be able to do it. Limited political experience, little known in the political circles, 31 years. We just lost 2 senior prime ministers. Today, we can be proud and we can boast that this little man from Viecas, who took over the realms of this country at 31, has grown to be one of the most popular leaders in the Eastern Caribbean. And I want to venture to say, maybe in the world, one of the most progressive, one of the most dynamic, and he had a rough time. Because coming from the IMF in 2006, 2007, he was faced with Ophelia, Ophelia in 2010, a major storm that caused havoc on the west coast of the country. In 2013, we were confronted with the Christmas drought that wreaked havoc on the southern side of the country. In 2015, we had Tropical Storm Erica, and you all know the history and the story of Erica. And in 2017, we had this monster called Maria. And the government, even under those trying situations, have never reneged on its responsibility to govern and to manage this country. In fact, for the first 6 to 8 months, government collected no taxes at all. Everything was for free after Hurricane Maria. Yet still, we were able to pay salaries at the end of September to public officers. We did not, in normal conditions, in the real world, public officers would have had to be sent home because you can't afford to pay them. Yet still, we copped on every single public officer that was employed in the government. Our social programs, the National Employment Program, our care for the elderly, we were able to keep these, and these are still up and running. While the naysayers thought that these were unsustainable, it would not last. These programs are still up and running, and there has never been an issue of paying or meeting the expenses of those. But more fascinating is that in December, we were able to pay what we call in Dominica a double bubble. We were able to pay public officers 2 or 3 times their salary as bonus to them and as increase in their salaries. This is what we have been able to do as a government. On top of all the other things which I'm not going to mention, the housing, I guess the Prime Minister will probably want to speak to the housing issues. But this is what the little man from Viecas has been able to do this country. With total admiration of every foreign leader, whether it's China, whether it's Venezuela, even the United States admired him for his tenacity and his strength of purpose and his love for country. In fact, those of you who live overseas will remember when he addressed the United Nations 4 days after the hurricane. He left Dominica with wet shoes, wet socks, and he addressed the United Nations. And that was probably one of the better speeches ever delivered by any prime minister in Dominica. When he outlined a vision 4 days after storm, Rosa was still 10, 15 feet of mud outside of Whitchurch. The Bayfront, mud, police headquarters, police stations, mud in the streets of Roseau. Here it is that you have a prime minister outlining a vision to the world on how he intends to move his country forward and to get out of the mess. And it was that speech at the UN that brought former President Bill Clinton to Dominica to see what this little boy is talking about. And brought his Secretary General of the United Nations to see what this little boy is talking about. And to bring Prince Charles here to see what this little boy from Vietnam is talking about. And they all said, you've done well. We will support you in rebuilding your country. And today, we are very, very proud that persons coming back to this country will not recognize that 2 years ago, this was the country that we almost write off this country. And you know, there are countries in the world that have gone through similar problems with more resources than us. I don't want to offend anybody. I'm not going to call names today. Louisiana, maybe. Haiti. I'm not going to call names. I'm not call names. But they're still struggling. There are still people in tents. In this country, we have been able to put a roof over most of our heads. You can't do it all in 2 years. But more importantly, we're not building for these people guest houses, I would call it. Because when you see the quality of housing that we're building for poor people from Dominica, for farmers, for fishermen, for housewives, these houses are comparable with any house in Waldhouse or Santa Roma. That is what the government is building for this country. That is how we intend to take poor people in Dominica to another level. Before I leave, however, I want to raise an issue with you, and I want to pay careful consideration. Because at the next election, or this coming election, the issue of an international airport is going to be paramount on your mind. Even you coming home would love to see some sort of air access improvement. I'm not going to talk about Roosevelt Skerrit Airport. Roosevelt Skerrit will talk about his airport. But I want to talk to you about proposals that were received previously. And what is sad is those proposals, which have been proven by everybody to be unworkable, those same proposals are being put forward today as an alternative to our air access challenges. There were 2 reports. There was one in 1998 by a company, Gibbs, Planning and Gibbs. And in that report, they had identified 12 sites that were possible. And it's almost impossible to build an international airport in Dominica because you have to cut down mountains and block rivers and block ravines because we just don't have the expanse of flat land. But Alexander Gibbs came up with a conclusion that the best site for that airport was the Woodford Hill Wesley site. Then in 1998, the United Workers' Party did a study with a company called Stanley and Planning. And this is what they said about the Stanley and Planning report. That one, they were trying to avoid the cost of relocating people, because you have to relocate people if you have to build the airport. It's been done in St. Vincent. In everywhere you build an airport, there has to be some level of relocation. So to shy away from competing for relocation, they decided to put the airport in the wrong place. The proposed orientation calls for a curved, non-precision approach for landing for an airport which will be classified as a visible airport. It means that you could not do instrument landing at the proposed airport of the previous government. You would have to do it when you can see and you can land. It says that that the airport cannot meet full instrumentation and landing capabilities. It says that the proposed airport meets conditional approval of the ICAO. That the ICAO, which is the authority, the international authority that certifies airport, would not certify that airport as proposed by the previous government. There are serious surface obstacles, infringement issues pertaining to Mont Diab, Mont Destiny, Mont Diablotin to a lesser extent. It means that there were too many surface obstructions which would render that airport unsafe for people to land in. It says further, the likely frequent closure of that airport for safety concerns due to inclement weather, heavy rainfall, and low cloud cover. The surrounding terrain concerns will contribute to, among other things, a displacement threshold, which means that even if you had a 10,000-foot runway, you would not be able to utilize that 10,000-foot runway, so you would not be able to attract the type of aircraft that you're seeking to attract to come to this country. The Prime Minister will tell you about his airport and how he intends to fix that. But I just needed to put that on the table because the World Bank, the IMF, and you can rubbish them if you want, but these are the bodies that call the shots in the world today. If you believe you can run a country without concurring with the IMF, with the World Bank, with the ECCB, with the European Union, then you have a big problem. And all apart from the fact that they were planning to build that airport using loan funds, and that is where the $140 million at 14% came from. They claimed it was to do the airport, but it was spent to meet in recurrent expenditure to pay wages and salaries. 14%. I mean, you people work hard, 14%. That is what the money was borrowed for. And they told us that the Dominican people would be burdened and saddled with that debt for generations to come, because the airport would not be able to generate the level of revenue that would pay back for the airport, but you would have already contracted a loan which you would have to repay. So that is the story behind the airport. And the sad thing is, after all this information, this guy still intent on selling to you the same airport in the same place at the same time. Not only that they cannot raise the money to do it, but it's a waste of time, a waste of the people's money. And maybe it might cost us a couple more millions in this scary airport. But it will be functional, it will be operational, and you'll be able to attract the kind of people that you want to attract to come to this airport. So, ladies and gentlemen, 5 minutes. I'm going to stop. Well, the chairman didn't stop me, so I thought my 5 minutes was running. She should have stopped me. But I told her I was going to be a good boy today, very disciplined. You notice I've not spoken about agriculture. That's another long story by itself. But just to tell you that we have $65 million worth of loan monies from the World Bank, grant and loan, that was negotiated by Skerrit these 4 days with his wet clothes and his wet shoes. He was able to convince the World Bank that we needed to put the housing sector and the agricultural sector back on its feet. He raised $104 million for housing and $65 million for agriculture. But we can discuss those in our interactive sessions. But in conclusion, I really, really want to thank you, the diaspora. I have quite a bit in my constituency. You have been great to Dominica. You have been excellent to Dominica. And the contributions you have made has made it much easier for us to run and to govern our country. And I want to say to you, to reassure you, that nobody will stop you from exercising your rights. Let them burn Roseau if they want. But that will not stop the government from delivering to you what is truly due to you, an opportunity for you to be part and parcel of the development of this country. But this election is going to be very critical. It's going to be crucial. We've done a lot of work. We've done a lot of work in 2 years. But this is just the beginning. There is much more to be done. And that's why I said, let us look at the policies and the programs. See what is it that this government is proposing to move this country forward. And if any one of you can tell me what is the other side proposing, then we can also discuss that when we come to talk. Tell me what is it that they have said to you that will convince you that they are ready to govern this country. This is the wrong time to change the captain of the ship. We have a good captain. He has sailed us through very difficult and murky waters. He has gotten us out of the Atlantic Ocean. And now we are approaching the calm seas. I believe the onus is on us to give him that recognition and to thank him. He sacrifices youth. He sacrifices life. He sacrifices educational opportunities. He sacrifices future to put at the disposal of the people of Dominica. And the most we can do is to reward him at the appropriate time for this great job. Thank you very much. God bless you. We will talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Ostry. You can't stop a good thing when it's flowing, so it's always good to have him speak. He spoke to you about the good things that is happening in Dominica, and he reminded you of how it used to be compared to how it is right now. So he's giving you an opportunity to make the right decision. And that right decision, I think, is to maintain and to keep the Dominica Labour Party to govern the country of Dominica. I would like to call Mrs. Ophelia Marie to do an entertainment piece to us. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm testing the microphone. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. I say you're happy and you know it, you really want to show it. You're happy and you know it, clap your hands. That's not the piece, no? I'd like to do one that is a gift of music. I'm sorry I have to be in front of. Thank you, sir. I have been excused. And I want you to help me and join me, okay? So if you want to stand and move, do that for me, okay? Let's go. Woo, woo, woo. It says everybody has a role, and each of us have to play it. So if you want to get up, show me your role, okay? I'm talking about the job you have to do. Behave yourself. Testing. La musique, la musique. L'inventeur de la musique, il est bien terrifique. C'est le créateur du soleil, au ciel, la forêt, les eaux de la mer. J'assiste toujours. La musique remplit mon âme, mon cœur, tant de vibrations, tant de douceur, porteur de la joie et de bonheur. Tout le monde va dingole, dingole, oh dingole, dingole, oh dingole. J'aime bien qu'on chante. Il n'a pas d'argent, la musique présente, le cœur content. Jeune et grand, petits enfants, tout le monde va. Dingole, sing with me. Dingole, oh dingole, dingole, oh dingole, Music, I see my power up there. La musique nous envahit, la musique nous enrichit. Même dans la nuit, à l'abri, un aveugle peut trouver une mélodie. La musique remplit mon âme, mon cœur, tant de vibrations, tant de douceur, porteur de la joie et le bonheur. Tout le monde va. Dingole, dingole, oh dingole, dingole, oh dingole. J'aime bien qu'on chante, il n'a pas d'argent. Je dis, la musique présente, le cœur content. Jeune et grand, petit enfant, tout le monde va. Dingole, la musique va tango. Hey, dingole. Hey, oh yeah, hey, dingole, woo! Oh, you're not helping me. Get up, get up, get up, get up, get up. Oh, you're not getting up, you didn't get up. Woo! pression, termine en composition. Quelques belles paroles, une heure, Rossignol, c'est si faux, ce n'est pas drôle. La musique remplit mon âme tant de vibrations, tant de douceur, porteur de la joie et le bonheur. Tout le everybody, dingole, dingole, baissez bas, dingole, dingole, dingole. L'aime bien clochard qui n'a pas d'argent. La musique présente, le cœur content. Jeune et grand, petit enfant, everybody, dingole, dingole, Anicia, dingole, 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 dingole. Ay, ay, ay. Dingale. Oy, oy, oy. Dingale. All right. Enjoy the rest of the morning. Enjoy the rest of being Dominican. And I'll see you again, either here or over there. I love you, Dingale. Thank you. Dingale.
Dingole, dingole, Thank you, thank you very much. After Hurricane Maria, our Honorable Prime Minister addressed the United Nations. And when I saw him and I listened to his contribution, I got goosebumps. Because it could only take a visionary leader to come up with the idea of rebuilding Dominica and rebuilding us as a resilient nation. It gives me great honor to introduce to you the Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, the Prime Minister of Dominica. Can you please stand as he welcomes to the podium? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let me recognize in our presence the Deputy Prime Minister, Honorable Reginald Austri, the Member of Parliament for the Soufriere constituency, Honorable Dennis Charles, my cabinet colleagues present, the Secretary to the Cabinet, Ambassador Steve Farrell, Father Mama, who prayed for us this morning, Mr. Sam Raphael, the proprietor of Jungle Bay. I see some of my fellow candidates present here as well, from the various constituencies. I see the former Minister for Education, Mr. Sorrento. I see our council in Martinique, Mr. Frampton, my friend, Ms. Del Sol, and all of you, and of course, Afinia Benjamin, the Master of Ceremony, and the Director of the Diaspora Office. I want to welcome all of you Dominicans back home. This is your country. This is where you were born. And this is the country that gave you the foundation upon which you're standing. And it's important that we always pay homage and show gratitude to our country, notwithstanding where we are in life today. Before I go on to share with you some comments, I just wanted to say something about a matter that's in the public domain this morning. Because I find that I take blame for all kinds of things in this country. And sometimes I know nothing about it. And if I do know about it, it has nothing to do with me. And so I understand this morning that there is a discussion in the media about the non-contractual engagement of Dr. Theodore Thomas as a medical doctor at the hospital. And this, first of all, this has not come to the cabinet for renewal, and therefore cabinet cannot disapprove something that has not come to it.
And this is a matter for the administrators in the Ministry of Health, the permanent secretary, the medical director, and the chief personal officer to deal with. When it comes to the cabinet will take a decision, but as far as I know, this has not come to the cabinet. So the talk on the street that we have not renewed the contract is not correct at all. Dr. Thomas is a very good doctor, very good surgeon, and I have no doubt that his contract will be renewed once it comes to the cabinet. I will be traveling to Barbados this evening. I have a similar meeting with Dominicans resident in Barbados to share them where we are, the country, and what are the plans we have been implementing and intend to implement. Hurricane Maria, my friends, as you know, dealt a serious blow to Dominic. When all of us in this country woke up the morning after the hurricane, there was no sense of hope. People had given up on themselves. They had given up on the country because all what they had worked for so many years was either blown away or washed away by this monster hurricane. But I must say, and we'll all agree, that by the grace of God, we have come a very long way as a country. And you know, many weeks and months after the hurricane, nobody wants to be Prime Minister of Dominica, you know. Nobody, none of my colleagues here who wanted to be before that, nobody wanted to be Prime Minister of the country. Because nobody felt that we could have dealt with the issues confronting us as a nation. But again, see where we are today. And when I traveled to the United Nations a mere 4 or so days after the hurricane, and declared at the podium of the United Nations that we are going to build the world's first climate resilient nation. All those who were in attendance at the time and those who viewed via live broadcast of this address raised questions about, you know, this country is flattened, and here it is, its leader is saying to the world he's going to build the world's first climate resilient nation. And mark you, at the time I addressed the United Nations, I was homeless as Prime Minister. Because the resident I was staying at, the roof had gone. But while we were seeking to address our present day issue, the government felt that we had to look to the future. And we have accepted the science relating to climate change, that climate change is real, that the storms will come more frequently, and they will come more ferociously. And the international community, the developed world, have been talking about actions to be taken to address the issues of climate change, but they have not been doing so. And so it is left to us as nations in the Caribbean and the Pacific and in Africa, developing world, to see what we can do to mitigate against the impact of this storm. So yes, these storms will come, but we are building a resilient nation. In the event that these storms, when these storms come, we'll be in a better place to receive them and withstand them, and we'll be able to get our lives back up more quickly than we did after Hurricane Maria. And if you recall very clearly, in 2015, when we were impacted by Tropical Storm Erica, we declared to Dominicans and Dominica that we're going to build back better. And I said in numerous addresses to the nation that if a storm like Erica were to come to visit us, or a storm more ferocious than Erica were to visit us, that which we're building would be able to withstand the ravages of this storm. And as unfortunately fate would have it, Maria came. And the pieces of infrastructure which we placed after Erica in 2015 all withstood the ravages of Maria. Look at the West Bridge, for example, in Roseau. Stood the might of the Roseau River. Look at the homes that we were building in Bellevue-Chopin. Not one of the homes that we were building in Bellevue-Chopin at the time of the hurricane was impacted. because we started to employ the technology, because there's in fact technology, it'll cost you more money, the infrastructure will cost more money, but we believe that's the right direction to go. And so everything we do as a government, as a country now, has to be in the sphere of building resilience. So the homes that we build, we're taking this into consideration. Our health services, our agriculture, even our fiscal policies are being oriented to address the challenges which we confronted after Hurricane Maria. And so, at the end of the day, when we would have put all of these blocks together, our country would be in a much better place then than it would have been at the time of the hurricane. And luckily for us, we have been always saying to the nation, and I believe that for a small open economy like Dominica, that is exposed to external decisions which have negative impacts on the economy, and also natural disasters, the prudent and responsible management of the state finances is always paramount. That is the most important element of it. And we have instilled in ourselves a sense of discipline that has been so profound, and we have seen the results of that discipline, especially coming out from the structural adjustment program, which we had to implement from 2002 to 2006 to fix the fiscal challenges which we inherited when we came into office in 2000. And we've carried this on. So at the time of the hurricane, we had money saved. We had money saved. And those monies were able to buy food for people because, as you know, when Maria hit us, all of the countries that could assist us, their own countries were impacted. So the British, the French, the Dutch, all of them were impacted. And they were already assisting their dependent territories in recovering from the disaster. And so the first set of food that really landed in Dominica were purchased by the government to distribute to the citizens across Dominica. Every house that we have built so far has been our local resources. Every home that we have fixed, every business that we've assisted in restoring its operations have come from our own funds. Because the pledges that have been made by the international community, as you know, there is a procurement process. And that procurement process can be protracted. And so 2 years later, we have not started to see the tangible benefits of these pledges. But I can say to you that come 2020, the first quarter of 2020, we will start seeing those investments, those commitments, those pledges manifest themselves in our country. Where are we with regards to our economic development? And we're here at Jungle Bay, and we decided to specifically host this event here to allow you to experience what we're talking about. The speeches that you've been hearing, because there's so many misinformation and fake news on Facebook by a few Facebook junkies that sometimes even those of us who ought to know better, we believe what we read and what we hear, the misinformation. Because it is natural in human beings to believe negative news than to promote positive news. But there is a testament of what we're talking about. And this was built after the hurricane. Partnering with a Dominican who came here with a plan. This is why I'm saying anybody with a serious plan, a serious idea, who believes that the government can partner with you, I am saying to you that this government, which I have the honor to lead, is prepared to engage you. And I am not interested in people's political persuasion. Once you're prepared to put Dominica first, and you're prepared to show an undying love for our country, I am prepared to embrace you. And you would know that Sam Raphael, he contested against me in Petit Savan. He was a major architect and strategist of the Workers' Party. I knew that. But that was not my preoccupation. I always saw him as an entrepreneur, as an investor, as somebody who was creating jobs. He was badly advised to get involved in the politics on the wrong side and so on. But I saw him as a Dominican who came back to Dominica and was doing something good. And so when the tropical storm Erica hit him, I am the one who reached out to him. He didn't come to me. And most politicians would have said, oh, Mr. is not supporting me. Let me stay with his storm and his old hotel in Jungle Bay. But I reached out to him. And see what we have today, creating jobs for so many Dominicans. But what is contrasting is this, and I'm not the one who, I do not know about it, it's Sam who said so publicly, that while he is opposed to me, or then he was opposed to me, I'm not sure whether he's supporting me now, I don't know, I hope so. Though I saw him in laughing over red shit and so on, scared for PM. There's the other person who is vying to be prime minister of his country who told Sam, don't build the hotel. I mean, and if you are serious about your country, if you say you love your country, if you say you want to bring prosperity to your country, how could you tell somebody do not invest in Dominica? Because it is by investments you can create jobs. It is by investments and bringing foreign exchange you can make a difference in the economic landscape of Dominica. But you know, love is greater than hate. And love will always triumph hate. And it's because love has triumphed hate, we are here at this wonderful place called Jungle Bay Resort. And this hotel was built by Dominicans with Dominican labor and the artisans that we have. All of the stonework you see here was done by local Dominicans. They cut the stones themselves and they placed the stones up. All of this woodwork, Dominicans did it. Ordinary working Dominicans. So we have a lot to be proud of. And of course, it's not the only hotel. And I correct my friends who spoke before me. Jungle Bay is not the first five-star hotel that Labour brought to Dominica. Secret Bay in North Dominica is the first five-star hotel which landed on Dominica, developed by Gregor Nassif. And we also have signed an agreement with him to build an additional 36 or so villas under the Citizenship by Investment Program. He has started construction, and we look forward to these additional 36 villas ready in 2020. Kempinski, 160 rooms, open to guests, and the formal opening will be done on the 2nd of November, Saturday coming. Creating 150 jobs thus far in this first instance to Dominicans. And we have the Marriott under construction at Coconut Beach. We have a Hilton Hotel at Salisbury in Grand Savan under construction. Very soon we're going to sign another agreement for 130 rooms for Hotel Marriott Hotel to be constructed on the site of the Public Works. The land has been sold. We're going to sign another contract for 100 room hotel adjacent to the Kempinski Hotel in Portsmouth. The land has been cleared for this particular purpose. Fort Young is expanding. When you drive by Fort Young, you will see the structures going up, building a brand new Fort Young hotel, taking the rooms to over 100. They are creating construction jobs, but certainly sustainable long-term jobs when these hotels are completed. And with just the few hotels that have been opening, the Jungle Bay, the Kempinski, and so forth, independent economists have said to us that these hotels will bring about $140 million in foreign exchange to our country a year, and $44 million into tax revenues for the Treasury of Dominica. So there are going to be so many multiplier effects for agriculture, the supply of food to the farm, to the hotels, vegetables, meats, eggs, fish to these hotels. How many pounds of fish you will be consuming here, Sam, a year? Plenty. In Jungle Bay, you consider how much? A year, pounds of fish. He doesn't have a figure. But you're talking about You're talking about thousands of pounds of fish, opportunities for fishermen. So we're well on our way, and Dominica has become a magnet for international brands. A magnet for international brands. And this is good for our country, and it speaks well to our country. I invite you to go and have a meal at the Kempinski Hotel on the weekend so you can appreciate for yourself. Regards to the geothermal project, our challenge in Dominica with utilizing fossil fuel is that electricity will always be expensive because we have to import the fossil fuel. And we have been advised, and we accept that advice, that the way to go is renewable energy, especially in keeping with our thrust to building a resilient nation, a greener economy. And we have been able to secure all of the financing required for the construction of that plant. There was a recent testing done, a successful testing done, and I was at the World Bank this month discussing with them the next steps, and we are in the process now of going to tender for the construction of the geothermal plant itself. And what this will do is that it will seek to reduce the cost of energy to domestic consumers, but also for business. When you run in a hotel, for example, and the air conditioning is on 24/7, and you have 160 rooms, you can do the maths. And so by the construction of the geothermal plant, we have been advised we will see a remarkable, a noted decrease in the cost of energy to all consumers. Again, keeping money in the consumer's hand, keeping money into the business's hands, and thereby building financial wealth and able to reinvest those funds and create more opportunities for us. Infrastructure. We have a comprehensive infrastructure plan. The Roseau Enhancement Project, the plan there is to redo all of the streets in the city, redo the sidewalks, cover the drains, and ensure that the city is more user-friendly, especially for people with disabilities and senior citizens who are able to walk through the city. We have started with the Riverbank River Street, and you'll take a drive there and see what we're talking about. That the drains are covered, the sidewalks are improved, we are constructing a riverside promenade so people, families can go and sit by the river and enjoy the beauty of the river there. And the next phase is to do the Great George Street and then move into King George V Street. We cannot do all of the street at the same time and create a congestion in the city, but there is a comprehensive plan. And to have all of the electrical lines, all of the cables underground, so in the event a hurricane were to hit us, we wouldn't have the challenge of not having energy or electricity for so many months after the hurricane. But I can tell you, as you know, the cost of infrastructure in Dominica is very high. We have designs to build and to reconstruct the road from Loubaix to Bacatel. That alone, the estimates for that is about $140 million. Luckily, we have been able to negotiate successfully with the British government, and they're prepared and they have agreed to finance this $140 million road for us. From Emerald Pool all the way to Pegua, through Castle Bruce, and through the Canago territory, we have sent tenders out for the construction of that road, the reconstruction of that road, and that is costing us about $120 million. We have secured the funding from the World Bank to construct and to reconstruct this road. And so you can appreciate the sheer cost of the infrastructure. The terrain is difficult. We don't have flat lands like many countries. Every village you go to, you have to cross 2 or 3 rivers, and you have to build bridges. You have to improve on the waterways. And so the cost of infrastructure is very high, but there's a commitment to doing so. We have started, and we have recommenced rather, the national street lighting program, placing street lights all over the country, utilizing solar-powered and now wind-powered street lights, and so that we can enhance the security and the safety for road users across Dominica. In health, the tremendous strides being made in health. And before I talk about health, I would like to say to you in the diaspora, we're looking for a chief executive officer to run the new hospital for us. So any one of you who is prepared to come back home and make a contribution to lead the hospital, the management of the hospital, there is a position and there'll be additional positions at the hospital. So we need your skill in locating a CEO for the new Dominica-China Friendship Hospital. Because we recognize that while we're putting in this advanced infrastructure in place, with additional services, new and modern equipment, we need to ensure that the delivery and the management of healthcare services is also at the level that we want it to be. And this is why there's going to be a whole paradigm shift of how we run the healthcare services in Dominica. That it has to be run in a professional level. It has to be run with patients in mind and the care of patients in mind. And it has to be a more friendly atmosphere. And I believe that we have to improve on the management of our healthcare services in Dominica. And so we're building infrastructure. We have started the construction of the new hospital. The first phase was handed over to us. It is open to our citizens and residents and visitors. Work is going on apace with regards to the construction of the other phases. And once it is completed, we'll be in a much better place to deliver the kind of care to our citizens in Dominica, all of us in Dominica at the PMA. We have signed a contract and we've started a number of them for some 12 new health centers across Dominica. Improving the infrastructure, improving the services and the quality of care at the primary healthcare level. And there are some who try to give you the impression that we're not interested in building the Marigot Hospital. But the contract has been signed to build the Marigot Hospital. We have started clearing the site, and work will progress in earnest in the next few weeks, few months. Just the physical building is costing us $32 million. But what strikes me is that there are some who have demonstrated for this hospital, say they want the hospital and they want it now. There are some who gave the citizens of Dominica and the world the impression that Skerry did not want to build a hospital in Marigot. But now that a contract has been signed for the hospital, work is about to start for the hospital, they are demonstrating against the construction of the hospital. You know, and we laugh because it sounds funny, and we should laugh because it sounds funny. But this is serious. You don't play games with the lives of people. You don't play games with the management of a country, because there's so many people's future and people's lives in your hand as a leader of a country. And therefore, it's not a joke. And if we're serious about something, we must be consistent with our seriousness about it. And if we agitate, and rightly so, if you need something and you want to agitate and you want to demonstrate for it, that's great. But if it is happening, and it is happening, then you should also render your support to it and say you welcome it. Not to say you do not want it and to try to put all kinds of stumbling blocks when you see it coming. It is the same thing with regards to electoral reform. They say they want it, then you go to Parliament to pass the legislation to make it happen, and what they try to do? They try to stone the Parliament. And this is not what politics was in Dominica. When Debbie Junior Charles spent 15 years as Prime Minister of Dominica, in the Parliament, she and Mike Douglas would be at it. But Mike Douglas would never go out of Dominica and criticize Dominica. When Mike went out or Rosie went out, they want to look for opportunities for Dominicans. When Rosie Douglas was in opposition, he got scholarships for Dominicans. In Cyprus, in Yugoslavia, in Cuba, in Russia, in China, he sent Dominican young people to study various fields. Rosie was the first person who came back to Dominica and cautioned us, not only in Dominica, but the whole of the Woodland Islands, about the possible demise of the banana industry and the challenges which we're going to have with regards to the WTO and the trade in Europe. He's the one who sounded the alarm to us. But he did not go and try to undermine the government. No, he tried to work with the government so we could work together to address this challenge that we're going to be confronting. And that's what it's supposed to be. When it comes to fighting the politics and so on, let us fight. But when it comes to Dominica, we must be statesmen and we must be promoting Dominica as statesmen. And so, there are some who have engaged, who believe that being negative is the way to go. There are some who believe that being destructive is the path to leadership of the country. And there are some who believe that Dominica can change and Dominica can get to where we wanted to get to by attacking Roosevelt's character and saying all kinds of things about him. But if attacking Roosevelt's character and saying all kinds of things about him could bring development in Dominica, our streets would be paved with gold already. We would have everything in place in Dominica. That's not going to change a country. That's not going to build a country. You build a country, as I always say to people, on vision and hope. Vision and hope. And therefore, if you want to lead a country, and it is written in Scripture, that where there is no vision, the people perish. And it goes on to say that you must write down that vision. That's how important a vision is. And so if you want to be in leadership position of a country, you must be able to articulate a vision for the country. You must be able to present a strategy to implement that vision and a plan, and tell us where you get the resources to get this thing going. That is what it is. So my putting it to you this morning, my dear brothers and sisters, is that after they have engaged you in criticizing Roosevelt's character and all kind of innuendos and misinformation and lies, must say, fine, my brother, okay, good. Tell me what you're going to do for Dominica. Tell me how you're going to do it. And tell me where you're going to get the resources to do it. That's what it is going to boil down to. That's what it's going to boil down to. I am not here to tell you that Dominica is perfect. I'm not going to tell you everything is all good and dandy. No. Every country that you have come through has its own challenges. You come from the United States of America, there is poverty in America. There are homeless people in America. There are millions of homeless people in America. There are a number of young boys and young girls who are American citizens who can't go to university because they can't access student loans. There are many American citizens in the most developed country in the world. If you do not have insurance, and now with all this issue of Obamacare and so on, you can't get health care. That's the most powerful nation. And I'm not saying so to denigrate it. I'm just giving you some facts in comparison. The fact is, every country in the world has its own challenges. And what is Dominica not to have challenges? A country that is exposed to external shocks, decisions are taken against the developing countries, you have an impact, negative impact on the economy. And in many respects, we as small nations are at the mercies of the bigger nations. But luckily for us, we have been able to engender certain special relationships with some governments and some institutions, and they continue to be at our aid and our assistance. Because the world has changed. I have seen this world change so dramatically in the last 10, 15 years. Nations now are only concerned about their own self. Their own self. There's no more the issue of our brother's keeper. It's all about their own self. And it's not, I don't criticize them for it because there are challenges in their own countries that they have to preoccupy themselves with. And if you're not able to develop and to engender special friendships, and Dominica, as its stage, will always require friends to assist it. Because you don't have a high tax-paying base in Dominica to run this country. And look at this. Our country was impacted by two successive storms. One in 2015, we had 90% of the GDP impacted. And in 2017, we had 226% of the GDP impacted. Any country in the world, big or small, would have impacted so dramatically by a natural disaster, it would be impossible for you to recover. You would have to send people home. You would have to cut on social services. You would not be in a position to build homes for people and give them the homes free of cost. And I say to people, you know, I don't want the praises for this, because this is not human action. This is divine action. We give all the praises to the Lord for this thing. We are standing because by the grace of God we are standing. And we have to give him the glory and praise for it. Because I am just an instrument here on earth doing what the Lord directs us to do. So, and with that notwithstanding the hurricane and so on, we have not paid public officers late. We have kept every public officer working, those who were working at the time of the hurricane. We have maintained the National Employment Program. We have maintained the Yes Care program. We have helped thousands of Dominicans cover their homes. We have built hundreds of homes and building thousands more for Dominicans. And all of these things I'm talking to you about, these are not obligations of the state. I say to Dominicans, the state is not obligated to build anybody a home. The state is not obligated to provide education beyond 16 years to any citizen. But because we understand and we have an empathetic nature and a compassionate nature, we are reaching out to people. And I am criticized, I am being criticized by some in this country by saying that I am giving people handouts. But you know, I don't see myself as giving people handouts. I am giving people a hand up. A hand up. Because when we build a home for somebody, and that person was living in a broken down home, leaking, no running water, no washroom services, and you put that person in a respectful and respectable home, you are taking the person up. And you know, I caution people who criticize me for this thing. You know, there are some in our society like to forget from whence they came. We have something now, we forget how life was for us back then. We forget what the struggles our parents had to go through. And many of us who are older than me today would have been grateful to have had a leader like myself back then when your parents would be bringing you up. So many Dominicans were denied access to education. Many of you because your parents couldn't afford it. And many of you because the system did not accept you into the schools. Before I became Prime Minister, Dominicans were afraid to go to the hospital because they were owing user fees. Now we boast of 60 and older, people 60 and over having free access to health care. And everybody 18 and younger having free access to health care. It's a free cost to them, but it's a cost to the state. We have increased the budget for the pharmaceuticals treatment, medicines, by over $5 million annually to allow for patients who are suffering from cancer to have access to the medication that they need. And so when people come to tell you Skerrit did too long, or Skerrit hasn't done anything, we must remember where Dominica was when Skerrit became Prime Minister of Dominica, and where we are today in all spheres of our society. And if the only basis upon which you want to take Skerrit out of as Prime Minister's country because he's there for too long, how can this be an argument? You present your plans, you present your vision, and if people believe that you have a better plan, a better vision for Dominica, then they'll vote you in. That is on the basis you have to do it. It's not based on hate, it's not based on envy, it's not based on jealousy, or not to be based on this thing. So I say to you, my dear brothers and sisters, we have to be focused and serious about our country. And I know that you are. And so we have revolutionized education, and I don't want to recount to you all that we have done in education, but we've revolutionized education. Earlier this year, we took a decision for free tuition for all students attending Dominica State College. And I have been associated with the American system of education since 1994. And I know it very well. And most community colleges in America, the average tuition fee is $8,000 US. Any community college in America, the average tuition fee is $8,000 US. In Dominica, our children have it for free. And then you have a few internet junkies who can't come back to Dominica talking about how bad things being Dominica. And I know, and we have the plans to build a new cruise village and a new cargo port. The issues that we had at the cargo port at the time of hurricane, we have taken note of these things, and we're going to modernize the port, and that project will start in 2020. Going into the third decade of the 21st century, we cannot have people disembarking on a cruise ship and onto the streets anymore. We have to build better facilities. And so we'll be building a new cruise village to allow for more comfort for our tourists to come and greater opportunities for our vendors to make more money because more people will come. And that project will certainly commence in 2020. And I know a project that all of you always ask about, the international airport. You know, as I've said to you, that I have less years left in government than I have served. And I intend to pursue my second vocation of seeking to have my own church. And I will be targeting the non-church goers. And you know, once I do that, I will have the largest church in Dominica. But it is written, it says, knock and the door shall be opened unto you. Seek and you shall find. And you know, I keep knocking this door for the financing of the international airport and it's not opening. So I kept knocking it again. And one day, that door opened. And I'm saying to you here today at the Jungle Bay Resort that we have a commitment for the financing of the international airport for Dominica. And that the leadership of that country sent a special envoy to me this week to convey that direct message to me as Prime Minister of Dominica, that based on my request to them, they are committed to financing the construction of the international airport in Dominica. And I believe that once we can get this international airport in Dominica, nobody's going to hold us back. Nobody's going to hold us back. Because I believe that that is the only missing link. The only missing link for us in Dominica, that international airport. Because I know with the airport, more of you will come more often and more frequently to Dominica. Because notwithstanding the fact that we have all sorts of challenges with air access to Dominica, we still see a significant number of people coming to Dominica. And if we can address air access in Dominica, then that's it for us. We're well on our way. We're well on our way to greater prosperity in our country. So I look forward to the commencement and the completion of this airport for us. It is something, and what a wonderful news and gift that someone could give to us on the 41st anniversary of our independence. And they say, well, Kerry has been there for 19 years. How come now we're going to build the airport? But the first plane that landed at night in Dominica is Kerry landed in Dominica, you know. When you talk about, you can talk about so many firsts. We are the ones who have been so many firsts. When they talk about healthcare and so on, it is only in 2005 that we end up having an ICU at the hospital. When we came into office, we had one dysfunctional dialysis machine. Today we have 14 providing dialysis treatment to our citizens. So, you know, sometimes we don't boast this thing because we're doing it not to boast. We're doing this because we have to do it and we have our vision to mission to do it to help people. And so sometimes the misinformation you hear is overshadowed by our silence. But we also have to examine for ourselves. We know Dominica. We come every year. We come twice a year. We come 3 times a year. We know what Dominica is. And I'm happy that when you come to Dominica and you see for yourself, you are able to say to yourself, that which you've been hearing about Dominica is not true. And you go back and you inform your brothers and sisters where you live that what you're hearing about Dominica is not true. Yes, there are challenges, but this country has come a long way, and the future looks bright for Dominica. And so, election is on the horizon. I have, in fact, purchased 3 different pairs of pink shoes. My daughter's favorite color is pink, so at the appropriate time I'll tell her, choose one for daddy and so on, which one do you like and so on. But the election coming up, we believe, is the most important election since our independence. This election will determine whether our country moves forward with its vision or it comes to a crashing halt. And I said to Dominicans, I don't complain to the nation or bemoan to you how difficult it is to run this country. Because really and truly, you have $1 of expenditure, but you only make 60 cents. You have to find this 40 cents every so often to cover your expenditure. You have your own individual families and you know the challenges that you have with a mortgage and a car loan and car payments, and your child gets sick and you have to do this, and somebody dies in the family, so you have to spend money, and you know how it is. Just imagine how it is to run a small country like ours, where the majority of citizens don't pay income tax because of the government's income tax policies. And you have a consumption-based tax where you pay as much as you consume or as less as you consume. So you must have the ability to be able to raise this 40 cents to meet your expenditure on a regular basis. And so this election is very, very crucial for Dominic. And I say to people, this is not election about Roosevelt Skerrit. This is not about Dominica Labour Party. This is about the future of Dominica. And who you believe is better placed to lead this country for the next 5 years. And I repeat to you, you only build a country on vision and hope. And if you do not have vision and you're unable to give people hope, then what are you going to present to them? How are you going to advance this country? And so I am happy that you are here in Dominica. When you come, we're very happy because you spend money. And I know with debit cards and credit cards and so forth, that when the cash finish, you can go into the banks and the ATM machine and spend. But do not underestimate the value of your contribution when you come to Dominica. Do not let anybody fool you. You're making a huge impact on the economy and our tax revenues when you come to Dominica. So don't waste your time and go to Paris and London for vacation, or New York and these places and so on. Dominica is the best place to be. Look at the nice rainfall in there, nice breeze. Then you go to the Roseau Valley in Watson where you take a nice sulfur bath. You add 10 more years to your life. You go to Mero, you take a sea bath. Down there in Soufriere, there is a warm bath right in the sea. Where in the world are you getting that? When you walk in Manhattan, you have to watch because a yellow cab might run you down. If you see somebody walking in the back, you start walking fast because you know what they're going to do to you. When in Dominica, the place safe, the place nice, lovely breeze. You have hotels coming up. Where else you are? So don't go waste your money in other countries. Come to Dominica every vacation. Every vacation. And while we have the plans to build the airport, we have never stopped negotiating to see whether we can have some direct flights into Dominica. And so we are at the we are in a few moments of concluding an agreement with JetBlue to have a direct flight from New York to Dominica. And if all goes well, we will see the commencement of the direct flight in February of 2020. So the idea is to start with a weekly flight and to see how it goes. And as time goes by, we can increase in this until we get the international airport. So I think, and of course, we're discussing others to arrange some direct flights to Dominica. As you know, these flights will have to be subsidized by the state, and we're prepared to do so to facilitate our visitors coming to our country, like other countries do. So I want to thank you, my brothers and sisters. Let us remain faithful to our country. I do not have, and my team do not have all the answers to Dominica's problem. I'll be lying to you if I say so. And we are soliciting your ideas. We are soliciting your suggestions. Those of you who want to come back and invest, there are generous fiscal incentives packages for you. Those of you who may have a project and we want to look at it, a hotel, a restaurant, we intend to build a marina in Portsmouth. We're looking for people to run it because I don't believe government should be running anything. We can engage you under the Citizenship by Investment Program. We can engage you to build those things, as we've done here with Sam Raphael and Jungle Bay. We can engage you, but let us come with ideas. Let us come with proposals, and let us engage each other, and let us help work towards building a more prosperous, a just, and resilient Dominica. I give you my commitment that I shall play my part as the Prime Minister of this country, but we call on you to continue playing your part, and those who are still yet to determine that, we call on you to recognize your contribution, Dominic. And I said to us, yes, we might be who we are, where we are now in the world, but this started in Dominica. And you owe it to Dominica because your foundation rests on Dominica. So I want to thank you, and may God bless you, and may God bless your families, and may God bless our country, Dominica. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Prime Minister. Now that you have the information, the accurate and correct information for you to share with your relatives and friends when you return home to the diaspora, I hope you will help us to change the narrative and that it will be all positive about Dominica. We will only entertain about 5 questions because the Prime Minister and his team have to travel. So can you be brief, direct, and to the point? Thank you very much. We have a mic, and so we will have at least 5 questions. Thank you. You can line up. Could you line up at the front, in the middle? Okay. Vehicle PW704. This vehicle needs to be moved. Can you please remove your vehicle? PW704. We made the announcement earlier. Can you please move your vehicle? We only need 5 persons to ask questions. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Paul Alexander. I reside in the U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Thomas, originally from Grand Bay. Now, I heard the Prime Minister spoke about healthcare. Now, in the U.S. Virgin Islands, which is a U.S. territory, they have the same program as if you are not insured, you cannot get medical attention. It's difficult to get medical attention. So free medical care for people who are 60 and over, and those who are 18 and below, but I'm more concentrating on those who are 60 and over. In the US, your full benefits for Social Security or Medicare starts at 65. So if you are 60 and you have no insurance and you cannot be attended in the US, you cannot get the medical care that you need, and you happen to come to Dominica at that age, if the free medical care will be available to you. And based on that, I have an investment coming up if, according to what the answer is.
Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon. I have a question for the Prime Minister. I want to make it short. My name is Washington Hilaire from the village of Whitaker. Live in the Virgin Islands. One of the problems that I've seen since I've been here, I come to Dominica very often. When I come to Roseau, I see there's a lot of work being done around Dominica, and I appreciate that very much. But my question for the Prime Minister is the parking in Roseau. What is the government going to do about the parking in Roseau, especially the workers in Roseau come early and they take all the parking into Roseau. When we come, it's a problem. We've got to park in Pottersville, in Newtown, and so forth. What is the government's plan for parking in Roseau? Thank you.
That is question number 2. We are only going to have 3 more questions.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Prime Minister and everyone. I am not going to talk nothing party politics, but community politics. I want to give you a challenge. We have a set of things here they call local government, where we got lots of young people want to get involved. But the way it works, it's not. We have the Reform Local Government Act on there for about 20 years. I want to give you a challenge. Could you, by the next time the other people come to Dominica, the Reform of Local Government Act is in place, and we'll have a larger people involved. Forget party politics, community politics.
Thank you. Question number 4.
Good day, Mr. Prime Minister, Reggie, Rayburn, or whoever is here. My name is Rudolph Ray, originally from Vickers, Thibault, Portsmouth. My statement here actually is an appeal, suggestion, and an idea. Something is going to happen in the Eastern Caribbean. A big structure is going to be built, and I like it to be in Dominica. This structure, I discussed with a professor in the United States, is for a monument, which I said. The professor said, Mr. Roy, if you have a monument, you must have a museum for these people. This is our indigenous people. Mr. Prime Minister, about 6 or 8 years ago, I wrote you a letter. I got a reply. I spoke to Ian one day. He said, Mr. Roy, we cannot fund such a structure. I do not want you to fund it. Mr. Prime Minister, it can be funded by the United Nations, by our colonizers, France, England, which one again? Spain, the Dutch, our former colonizers. We have to put our ministry, who has direct contact with the United Nations and organizations around the world, indigenous organizations. Mr. Prime Minister, I'm telling you, with my discussions in the States, if we do not do it in Dominica, we are the only island with a reservation. One other island is going to get it. Imagine, Barbados never had a dugout canoe. Barbados could get it. We have to do that. Put our ministry to work, Mr. Prime Minister. It's really an appeal. On one side of my family, I think I have European roots. On the other side of my family, Bontif, I know they are the indigenous people. Also, you, Mr. Prime Minister, and Reggie. You see, you all have roots that are indigenous people. We have to do it, Mr. Prime Minister. Put your ministries, the guys who have direct contact with the United Nations, organization, indigenous organizations, countries, to work. We need a monument and a museum in Dominica to memorize the structure and the work of our indigenous people. Thank you.
My name is Pearson Shillingford. I reside in Wall House. I would like to know whether you have a date for the commencement of the construction of the international airport. I must inform you that if we fail to build this international airport, the so-called flagship hotels which we are talking about will be in serious problem within the next 4 or 5 years. Thank you very much.
We will entertain only the person standing. So after the young lady, the gentleman.
Good afternoon, everyone. To the Honorable Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister, parliamentary representatives, candidates, guests, good afternoon. My name is Carly Thomas. I'm currently from Woodford Hill, residing in Fonkole. I have lived in the diaspora, Toronto, for 27 years. I've made the choice to move back to Dominica to invest in my country. I am currently a small, and I stress, small business owner in Dominica. But what I want to say this afternoon is I really want to reach out to the diasporans that are looking on right now. I want to encourage you to come to Dominica and invest. You have asked me many questions, and I have been answering your questions. You've heard the Prime Minister, and actually I'm going to talk to Mr. Raphael to see if we can do a workshop for us, for you that want to leave the diaspora to come and invest. I know you have a little bit of iffies and questions, but if I can do it, you can do it. And as the Prime Minister said, he's willing to listen to us, to encourage us, to help us. So come out and invest. Listen, Dominica is beautiful. It is beautiful. And for the diasporans here, they can let you know. They can tell you. And Ms. Frances, can you please tell Mr. Trudeau I am not coming back to Toronto? And I just want to say to Dominicans, we have a gem in the Caribbean. We should take care of it. We should secure it. And one of the things I want to invest in the future is in the healthcare system. As you can see, for our diasporans, we have a lot of older people. We have a lot of seniors that are coming back. And the lifestyle that they have in the diaspora, we need to have it in Dominica for them. We need to have the facilities that's going to encourage them to stay. So I really hope that the Minister of Health is listening, and I will be knocking on doors as the Prime Minister has been knocking on doors, and I hope one day my door will be open. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Angelo Leblanc. I'm from Vegas, the Prime Minister's constituency. I've been living in St. Kitts Nevis, not too far away, for 32 years. I've established a small business there. I employ currently 10 people, 10 persons. I have a question for governments on a whole in the OECS. Living in St. Kitts Nevis,
Can I just interrupt for a second? The vehicle PW704, you really need to move right now. Can you please just adhere and move the vehicle? This is the third time we're calling. PW704, please, can you move your vehicle? We don't have a towing facility here, so we can't tow it away. But we're asking you very nicely to remove the vehicle.
Thank you.
It is a silver Jeep. Anyone with a silver Jeep, PW70, can you please move now? Continue with your question, sir.
Thank you, thank you. Like I was saying, I live in St. Kitts and Nevis, and our wages here are the highest in the OECS. We have a minimum wage of $9.50 an hour. I have looked, coming back to Dominica sometimes 3-4 times a year, and I've seen that our citizens are migrating because we have this free movement system where it doesn't matter what kind of work you do now, you could go to any one of the islands to work. I thought after we organized the OECS organization, one of the things we would have done was to make a level playing field where all wages along the OECS, all minimum wages, would be the same, so that we can discourage our citizens from moving out. I don't think they're moving out because they don't have jobs here. I think they're moving out because the wages are so high up there compared to our minimum wage. I just want to know if the OECS as a whole could look at it, not Dominica just to increase our minimum wage, but the OECS as a group could sit down and discuss labor actions so that the minimum wage across the OECS can be on a level playing field. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your questions. Now we'll get a response. Thank you.
In respect to the question on healthcare and whether a Dominican residing overseas, if this person were to come to Dominica and the person is 60 years and older, whether this person would have access to same policy that the government has, my simple response to you is yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm also saying to the parents who are here, your children who are school age, for example, you may very well want to consider sending them to the State College in Dominica. Because the State College is on par with any of the community colleges anywhere in the world. Our students who go to the State College here have access to all universities, whether it's in Canada, whether it's in the UK, whether it's in America, they have access to universities. So it's an opportunity for you to take advantage of. The issue of parking, we had some years ago had a plan to build a parking by the riverside apartments there. But we had started engaging the public, and you know, when you come for these things, there's always an unwillingness to cooperate on this because everybody wants to stop right in front of the place they go into. So I believe that we have to go for a whole process of sensitization and orientation because you're seeking to break a culture of so many years and a behavior of so many years. But I believe once we would have implemented a big chunk of the roads enhancement project, then we will seek to address some of the challenges where parking in the city is concerned. Because the plan is to turn a number of streets into the city into pedestrian streets, for example. To encourage more walking in the city rather than driving for the city. We try to address the congestion in the city by building or reconstructing the bypass at Center Roma going to Buffalo State, for example. We build a bridge at the stadium, and we build the China-Dominica Friendship Bridge down at the market. And the whole idea was that if you're coming from north, going to south, south, you don't have to drive through Roseau. You could drive through Buffalo State, the gardens, and get out. Or if you're coming from south, you're going north, you could go down Bayfront, go by the market, and get out. But you know, people have very nice motor cars these days, and they want to make everybody see their motor car. So everybody wants to drive in town with their fancy rims and so forth. And so you have to try to change that culture and that behavior. But it has to be done over time. I don't think that it should be an imposition of the law or anything like this. It really has to be a change of culture. Because those of you who left Dominica and you went to the UK, you went to Canada and America, you were a culture shock. Because, my brother, if you park, no parking thing, it will go. So it's a matter of regulations, putting regulations in place, and also the infrastructure as well, and really orientation and a culturalization. But I also believe too that parking is an opportunity for the private sector, because you go to other countries, all the parking is owned by private citizens. Governments don't own parking. What the government is prepared to do is to facilitate the private sector in establishing these parking zones. And you have the vertical parking. You have the system. You don't need much land. A very small plot of land can park 60 vehicles. And why can't the private sector person come in, lease a piece of land in the city, put the parking in there, sign an agreement with the bank, so the bank staff would park there, and you get a monthly payment from the banks or from private sector firms, or those of us who come and want to park in the city. So it's an opportunity, I believe, for the private sector. And the government is more than prepared to engage private citizens who would like to invest in parking, which I believe that it has the potential of being economical and so on. So it's something that we're prepared to look at. But for the government to do it, I don't encourage the government to get involved in parking. because that's ready for the private sector to facilitate. Local government reform. I mean, people talk about local government reform, but the truth is, my dear brother, the only real issue or real point in this local government reform that people talk about is about changing the law to allow public servants to be on the councils. That's the most fundamental point in the document you're talking about. And the question is, why do we believe that a public servant can only make a contribution to his community through a village council? I mean, there's so many groups and organizations in the council and so on that you could do. What we have done in the government, which I believe is the most important thing that has happened for village councils in Dominica, is to empower them by providing them with tremendous sums of resources, financial resources, to do things. So we use the councils in Dominica to help us build homes. We use the council to help us build roads. We use them to pay for the allowances to students going to school. And councils these days, if you go to the records, you will see that councils under the last 15 years, councils have received millions of dollars from the Treasury to assist the government in implementing programs. Millions of dollars to implement programs and so on. So the whole issue of local government reform really, to be honest with you, while it might sound fancy and it might sound, for some people talking about local government reform, it sounds good. I'm not sure whether you've read the entire document, but the document I know I have read is really not going to make any real difference in anybody's life in any community normally. And that's my view. You have a different view from me, but that's my view based on the document I have read, which is the local government reform document and so forth. So it's something that we can continue to engage ourselves on. The issue of the structure for the monument or the museum, I can say to my friend, I will arrange for you to meet the Minister of Foreign Affairs today so you can exchange contacts, so you can assist us in this prospect. And I really want to commend you for all your efforts, you've been doing out there, really grateful for that, and so forth. And I do have Kalinago blood in me. Of course, I'm a Kalinago, my brother. Vekas was the first Kalinago settlement in Dominica, And I'm not going to tell you, my dear brother Shillingford, that the airport will start next month or next month. I give you I'll say to you, one, there is a firm commitment for financing. And secondly, I have said to this special envoy who came to see me this week that I would like to see this airport start in 2020. So they're in fact sending a first team of experts to Dominica on the 8th of November. And they'll be there for 10 days to help gather all the information that we have put together so far and to advise us on the next steps for the airport and so on. And they'll be sending, after this team comes, they'll be sending a team here for the next 3 to 4 months to ensure everything is in place insofar as the works required to commence the airport. But I have said to them very clearly that I would like to see this airport start in 2020. So we are keeping our faith in that. Okay, thank you. But I agree with you. There's no argument there that the airport is certainly essential. And there should be no national discussion as to whether we need it or we don't need it. It's going to be built, and it will be built by this Dominica Labour Party government. I take note of the point which Angelo suggested there about the standard or uniform minimum wage. But minimum wage has to take into consideration other variables. While our minimum wage in Dominica might not be as high as others, the cost of living compared to others is not as high as others. So there are all sorts of indicators and variables that one would have to take into consideration. And sometimes the access that people have to free services and so forth, you may have it in Dominica, but you may not have it elsewhere. So there will be certain challenges that you may have in addressing this. If you go to the Schengen state, the countries in the Eurozone, they all have different wages because there are different variables, there are different indicators. So it's very difficult to have a standard or uniform wage scale in those countries, all countries, even if you have an economic union, as we do. And even countries, as I said, in Europe, you don't have this at all and so on. Even in the United States, for example, which is one country, you have different different wages and so on. But I get the rationale for it. So I'm not arguing that point. I'm not saying that there be other issues that we'll take into consideration. But I only say about this about some of us have left the country by choice. Some of us have left because of circumstances. And for me, a Dominican anywhere in the world, once you're making a meaningful contribution to yourself and to the country you're a resident, and you always remember your country, Dominica, is fine with me. I understand. But sometimes some of us would have to be properly advised as to whether sometimes it makes sense to leave or to go. Because some people leave, and when they get to their places, what they was hoping would have happened to them has not happened to them. And I believe that many of them, they will be better off being in Dominica. So while the wage may not be high or higher than the others, but your quality of life is highly compromised. You see what I'm saying? And therefore, it's a personal decision we have to make, and it's something that we have to look at. So I think each of us have to look at our own circumstance and determine whether sometimes the moving is better. And with these hotels that we're constructing, with these homes that we are building in Dominica, with the infrastructure that we're putting in place, with the massive investments of millions of dollars into agriculture, with monies available for small business development, with the concessions that we provide to people, we each can find to see our opportunities there. And so it's a matter for us to look at those opportunities and see how can we take advantage of them. And too many people sometimes look at the glass half empty rather than half full. And people come to our country. Non-Dominicans come to our country. And the moment they land, they see opportunities. And they position themselves to take advantage of the opportunities. So I think we have to, I believe, be more progressive with our views and be more open-minded with our perceptions and to look at the possibility and see how we can position it. And other thing too is that many of you, while you are still resident overseas, you have investments here. Many of you have your homes here, so you're in the real estate business. Some of you also have other investments that you employ people, and so all of these things add up. So you're not ready for retirement, but nothing wrong in building a home now and rent it out. And so you're able to pay your mortgage, and the balance goes into your saving account that when you get to your age of retirement, you come here, you have some money here. So there are opportunities here that I think we have to look at and to see how we can position ourselves, take advantage of it and so. But I want to thank you very much for your questions. The discussion will continue. We'll get an opportunity to interact. We have refreshments and so, right? Lots of that? Good. All right. All local stuff and so on, you know. But I want to thank you. I'll pass on to my friend.
Thank you again for coming and for the large turnout here this morning. And we hope that you get the information that you need so when you go out there, you can, just inform others of all the positive thing that is happening in Dominica. We have some light refreshments for you, but before we do that, we have a presentation by Kelisha Raphael that she would like to make to some individuals here. So just sit back for a moment, and then after Kelisha's finish her presentation, then you will interact with the ministers and the staff here, and you can have some refreshment for yourself. Thank you again for coming.
To our Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Roosevelt Skerrit, Honorable Reginald Austri, Honorable Dennis Charles, and to Mr. Sam Raphael, the proprietor of Jungle Bay Resort and Spa, members of Parliament, and to everybody else. Good afternoon. Welcome to Jungle Bay, our home away from home. Everybody feel comfortable? Beautiful resort? Are you gonna come back? Are you gonna stay with us for a little while? Okay. Good afternoon. We are now gonna give some giveaways out of our early bird prizes from our Honorable Dennis Charles, the Point Michel Soufriere Scottshead constituency. Okay? So who've been out of Dominica over 40 years? And you're gonna come back. Put your hand, you could keep your hands up. Over 40 years? So I should go higher? Okay. So say another number. You can have 40 and you have 35 and 25. You may not need because I told her once you give up all, just end. Understand? Okay. How many give you? Give it another one. Okay. So just say thank you. No, but I think that she wants to say 4 because she has 29 on there. No, she has 29 keys. But if you give us all now, you don't have more to do. That's why I told her. So if you say 40 and you get 29 people, you stop. Oh, but there's not 29 people yet. That's what I did. No, there's not 29 people yet. No, a lot of people have their hands. I think you have to stop. Yes. 29. So that's what I'm saying. Just stop after that one. Okay. Just stop.
Can you ask not people who were out for 40 and return a living, but people who are actually living outside for 40 years?
Yes. That's what I thought she was asking. Out of
Okay.
but that's what she said. That's right. Out of the country for 40 years.
But some people may be out, but they return.
That's
what
what
she
she
meant.
meant. Excuse me, but are you going to be 40 years, but you're going to go back out? Okay, that's it. Are you... To say another number? No, just wrap up, close, because you have enough people, you have enough. Don't go to 45. Okay, we're done. Just say thank you very much. Yes. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kelisha. So now is the time for you to get some refreshment, mingle with the ministers. Thank you, Mr. Raphael, for having us here. I hope you return and you see what is in at Jungle Bay for your experience. Book your next stay at Jungle Bay. It's a beautiful place. Thank you again.